Hello and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you are in the globe, and welcome to this webinar organized by Cellnex and Nokia. To start with, I would like to thank them for bringing us together in this panel session, where we will be discussing the role of wireless private networks in boosting productivity in the enterprise market and enabling Industry 4.0. The discussion in this webinar will focus primarily on the industrial manufacturing sector. My name is Malik, Saadi, Head of Strategic Technologies at Daeuble Research, and I will be the moderator of this webinar. I'm joined by three seasoned industry experts coming from different backgrounds across the entire supply chain. So we have Grégoire de Langautier, Industrial Development Manager for MGA Technologies, an established system integrator specialized in manufacturing. Hi, Grégoire. Yeah, nice to meet you. And we have also Mikko Uusitalo, Global Director for Mission Critical and Private Networks, working for Cellnex, the organizer of this webinar. Cellnex is a specialized network operator focusing on the enterprise markets. Hi, Mikko, nice to meet you.
Hi, Malik, and hi, everybody. Great to be here. Thanks for having me on board, and I'm very much looking forward to the discussion.
Okay. And finally, we have Stephane Daeuble, Head of Enterprise Solution Marketing at Nokia, a Tier 1 global wireless network infrastructure supplier. So, Stephane, nice to meet you.
Yes, hi, Malik. How are you doing?
Yeah, all good, all good. Thank you for asking. Thank you for joining the webinar today. So before I start the discussion with our panelists, let me give you a little background on private networks, the size of this market, and key pain points the industry is trying to solve with the technology. I will also share some select outcomes from an industry survey we conducted with Nokia, quizzing the industry manufacturers about their appetite for private wireless networks and what are the main drivers and barriers influencing their buying decision. So let's move to the next slide, operator, please. The next slide, if you could. Yeah. Right, so as you know, cellular technologies have been servicing the consumer market for long, but the transition to more advanced network, including 4G and 5G, is currently unlocking new business opportunities for the technologies, for those technologies in the enterprise space, notably private networks. So the adoption of private wireless networks is expected to pick up speed in the coming years, supported by multiple drivers, such as a new paradigm of spectrum usage, new players entering the space, and most importantly, increased connectivity and digitization demand from the end vertical. ABI Research expects the total revenues from private wireless infrastructure to exceed 10 billion mark in 2023, and a staggering 65 billion by 2030 when 5G is expected to reach a full maturity, right? So the concept of developing private networks in the enterprise is not just about connecting humans and mobile phones only, but it is most significant value should come from its ability to provide seamless connectivity to infrastructures, machines, and hundreds or maybe thousands of connected things in the enterprise floor. This is a main transformation paradigm that has the potential to improve efficiency and performance across many business and industries. This is this efficiency that can be achieved through the implementation of distributed intelligence and ubiquitous connectivity that will allow workers and machines to communicate, collaborate, and share intelligence on demand and in a flexible fashion. That could happen through enabling and bring in many technologies such as AR, VR, robotics, artificial intelligence, asset tracking, edge computing to the operation floor of the enterprise. So wireless connectivity will help enterprise organizations enhance the performance of their operations, IT, and communication tools, so to increase the overall productivity of their businesses. The manufacturing market will be responsible for almost the third of the total private network infrastructure revenues. The segment is emerging as one of the key areas that could benefit from bringing wireless connectivity to the operation floor. Let me elaborate on these points in the next slide. Operator, next slide, please. So there are many challenges and pain points connectivity can address for the industry and manufacturing sectors. Unplanned downtime and related costs in the manufacturing sector is one of the key challenges facing manufacturers today. There are many reasons why unplanned downtimes happen, including unpredicted fault affecting a given component or system, a collision between crucial equipment and moving objects, loss of assets that are essential in the operating floor, switching of equipment during the maintenance time, of overloading, the production line, electrical failure due to mismanagement of power, network failure, work safety reasons, and many other reasons that could be behind, that downtime. So the cost of the action, of no action in a large manufacturing floor could be estimated anywhere between $2,500 to $50,000 for each minute lost during unplanned downtimes, including loss of opportunities when companies couldn't deliver the service or product they promised to customers in timely fashion because of the downtime issues. The unplanned downtime is costing the manufacturing industry alone hundreds of billions of dollars every year. So another challenge facing the manufacturing industry is the imminent needs to simplify the ongoing complexity of manufacturing processes and support the digitization of production workflows in the manufacturing floors. Manufacturers need to accurately track, monitor, and managing the increasing number of moving or nomadic assets in the manufacturing floor, either that be products, tools, or equipment. They need sensors to be attached to any critical machine to report on the conditions of the manufacturing chain. They need autonomous vehicles to ensure automated links between the different nodes of the production chain, from material handling through to executing tasks that are increasingly hazardous for humans. Workers in the manufacturing floor will increasingly rely on intelligent devices, notably AR, VR, to help them access and perform assembly repair instructions while guided by remote experts. So a third challenge facing manufacturer is the technology complexity in the factory floor brought by the blurring boundaries between communication, IT, and operation infrastructure, as well as by the fragmented landscape of enabling technologies and automation protocols. This environment is slowing down the pace of innovation, making the move toward industrial and digital transformation more expensive than it should be. So important question to ask: how could private wireless networks address these pain points? Private wireless networks will enable advanced sensors and AI built into a variety of device types operating in the manufacturing floor to provide data sets and insight into previously opaque areas of the production and the management line of the industrial manufacturing business. Not only this, could provide a significant opportunity for improvement of the overall manufacturing operation, but it could enable many processes in the manufacturing floor to be automated to provide a high level of accuracy of those processes. Private wireless network based on 5G technology could support mission critical and time sensitive operations, for instance, predictive and automated maintenance, remote assistance and operations, and efficient production line management. All those applications could help the industrial manufacturing sector to increase production and operation efficiencies while helping in minimizing defect manufacturing processes and planned downtimes. Also, with wireless connectivity and enabled technologies, infrastructure can be easily recycled and reused flexibly. Machines can be remotely controlled and maintained, and logistic flows can be more optimized. Very well integrated platforms that could handle IT, OT tasks and enabling more harmonized automation protocols within and across the domains, those domains, IT, OT, and CT, will simplify the technology complexity to manufacturers. It will enable them to lower the TCO related to modernizing their manufacturing floor. It will also offer them the ability to add new features and functionalities on the go in a matter of days or not months or even years, as it is the case with legacy equipment today. As we move toward 5G, notably release 16 and release 17, and in the future release 18, telecoms equipment suppliers and system integrators will be able to integrate most existing machine automation protocols and provide a harmonized wireless data pipe for most of automation solutions used the industrial manufacturing floor. So next slide, please. So now, having given you, this introduction about pain point barriers, drivers and barriers, let me share with you what industrial manufacturers have to say about private wireless networks themselves. In collaboration with Nokia, we recently introduced conducted an industry survey involving 528 decision makers across IT, OT divisions, asking them about key drivers behind their buying decision for new IT and OT systems. As you could see from this chart, there is a discrepancy in the way respondents did answer to this question, depending on who you are talking to, IT or OT decision makers. For the IT departments, reducing downtime and improving security are two major drivers, which is quite in line with their responsibilities, since this department is responsible for the management of the enterprise infrastructure and is accountable for any security breaches and any downtime affecting this infrastructure. OT decision makers, on the other hand, have more functional responsibilities within the enterprise, and their main duties are more about managing, monitoring, and controlling industrial operations within a key focus on the efficiency of the physical and the digital processes they use. Their main objective is to maximize the enterprise operations. From this perspective, their key priorities are more operation-oriented, including increasing the capacity of their product chain and ensuring the modernization of their infrastructure. Their main aim is to maximize productivity and the efficiency of processes they use. However, improving operation efficiency is a common driver for both IT and OT departments. For IT departments, the operation efficiency could be improved via minimized and unplanned downtime. As I said in my previous slide, downtimes are costing the manufacturing industry alone hundreds of billions of dollars every single year. For OT department, improved operation efficiency could be achieved via installing automated processes whereby machines can be remotely controlled and maintained and logistics flows can be more optimized. All those elements are likely to enable the manufacturing industry to make huge savings while enabling a large-scale yield of goods. So now I'll move to the next slide, please, operator. So on the chart on the left hand, we asked respondents about the main business barriers to deploying private wireless networks, either that be 4G or 5G in the manufacturing operations. 57% of respondents say that perceived high costs associated with private work infrastructure is the biggest business barrier to adopting the technology. This implies that technology suppliers need to help manufacturers analyzing their options so they can work out their return on investment. So ROI will much depend on the size of the enterprise, the journey the enterprise is taking to transform their business, and the nature of product they use and the region they operate in. So other major barrier mentioned when answering this question was around the lack of awareness of private wireless networks capabilities, the business cases they can support, and the perceived complexity of their implementations. So, as demonstrated from the result of this survey, the real challenge facing the supplier of private wireless network is to demonstrate the ability of the technology to address key business and implementation requirements for their customers, industrial manufacturers, not just focusing on the technology performance in terms of network capacity, its bandwidth, latency, or reliability. They need to demonstrate how this performance could be translated into building successful commercial solutions capable of solving real life and pain points today and in the future. Another question asked in this survey was around the most suitable channel, suitable channel manufacturers are happy to use to introduce new technologies or vendor in their facility. More than a third of respondents prefer to partner with trusted systems and service integrators. Those players are known for their ability to implement innovation brought by various technology supply chain, including telecoms, but not limited to telecoms. They could include sensing and tracking technologies, computing, and artificial intelligence under a single system or framework. Not only this will enhance the overall technology performance, but it will also enable manufacturers to potentially lower the TCO while enabling applications not possible with previous generation networks. However, 25% of respondents said they lean on existing equipment and solution vendors to introduce new technologies. This reaction is probably reflective on the challenge manufacturers are facing when replacing or modernizing their legacy infrastructure. They want to make sure any technology upgrade should not interrupt operation and business continuity. Their existing equipment suppliers are offering them these comforts and peace of mind. However, sticking with existing vendors could prevent manufacturers from enjoying technology innovation that could possibly come from outside of the traditional manufacturing supply chain. So, well, my brief introduction to private wireless network has come to an end, and this introduction, I hope it gives you enough background on the market landscape, what pain point wireless connectivity can solve for manufacturers, and what end users in the manufacturing sector think are the main drivers and inhibitors of private wireless networks. I hope, again, this introduction will help in sparking debate in this panel session and will encourage the audience to ask pertinent questions. So let me first ask the panelists to introduce themselves and their respective organizations. Tell us a bit about the role they play in building private wireless network solution for the industrial manufacturer market.
Yes, my name is Stephane Daeuble. I'm working for Nokia as part of the enterprise division, and I look after the enterprise solution marketing, meaning looking at all the solutions that we promote to the enterprise market. And as you've mentioned, Malik, for the last 10 years, at least for Nokia, we are some of the pioneer in deploying private wireless in mining, starting in 2011 with Rio Tinto in Australia. Private wireless has been a very important focus solution for us, and we've seen, in the last 4 or 5 years, significant pickup in deployments of private wireless. We've obviously, a different industry segment, and you've mentioned earlier, but obviously the manufacturing space, both process industry as well as discrete manufacturing, effectively taking, now picking up on private wireless significantly to help effectively digitalize, their assets, their processes, and help, drive innovation and efficiency without their facilities. My team works across the globe, so we've got a good knowledge of what's happening around the world, and we're glad to see, in many countries around the world now, private wireless networks being deployed, and driving this Industry 4.0 agenda.
Very good. Thank you, Stephane. So probably we'll transition to Mikko if he is here. Otherwise, we will go to Grégoire. Mikko, so I can see that you're here.
Yes, good afternoon. How are you?
Yeah, very good. I mean, could you please introduce yourself, your organization, and the relevance, to the private wireless network debates?
Yes, of course. Thank you. Thank you very much, Malik, and thank you for a great introduction. So Mikko Uusitalo is my name. I'm a global director for mission critical private networks at Cellnex, heading our business line called Edzcom. We basically are in task to design, build, and operate private networks in Europe. We deliver about 35 of those, so 4G and 5G networks over time. Many of them are in manufacturing segments. And basically what we see happening now, especially this year, is a massive demand in the manufacturing side. So we've been spending a lot of time in the last months in automotive sector, both in terms of these part manufacturers as well as the car manufacturers, for example. And the demand is there. So happy to debate today why and why it makes sense.
Yeah, thank you, Mikko. Thank you. And Grégoire, could you please introduce yourself, your organization, and the relevance to wireless private networks?
Of course. Thank you, Malik, for your introduction. So yes, I'm at NGA Technology, and we are specialized in design and production custom-made machine tooling for industry, most of the pharmaceutical, medical, biotechnology, and electronics industry. And we are here today because thanks to Edzcom and Cellnex, we are deploying in our new Tech Lab 4.0 5G private network collaborative. So we're going to try to respond to your question you just pinpointed just before. So how to make industrial goals to smart connectivity to respond to how it works and how it's going to work for the future for them.
Yeah. Thank you, Grégoire. And while I'm having you here, let me ask you a question. And I think this question is more relevant to you than the other part or the other panelists. Provided your proximity to industrial manufacturers, could you walk us through the engagement process with your client from the point you start educating them on what technology innovation can do for them to build in adequate solutions that can address their pain points to helping them operate those solutions? What are the most important challenges you face in that journey?
This is a very good question, and this is exactly what we are trying to do to educate them to the use of this new connectivity. There's two biggest challenge for them is the lack of equipment for them. Our providers, because we are working with providers and clients, and providers are not ready to use 5G yet or new connectivity. So our work is to make them process, make them go to the new connectivity. And for the client, is they don't know what they're going to do with it for now. It's like,
Right.
Okay, we are talking about 5G, but what are we going to do with it today?
Right. So it's the lack of education, and basically, partly, the entire supply chain is responsible for that lack of awareness. And I think, whatever we do, we still need to deploy more and more efforts to educate, the implementers, industrial manufacturers in particular, to the use of those technologies and what they can do for them. And obviously, now one of the guys who are, deeply involved in that education is Cellnex. So this is a question for Mikko here. As a specialized network operator focusing solely on providing private networks to the enterprise, notably industrial manufacturing, how do you differentiate your business model, your go-to-market strategy, and your outreach to the supply chain compared to incumbent mobile operators who are, let's face it, more trapped into their legacy, market, which is the consumer market? So in other words, what can your organization bring to the industrial manufacturers incumbent mobile operators cannot do?
Maybe Malik, if I can address that with Stephane, I guess in a concert, because I think we come from the worlds that complement each other very well, and also I think we work a lot with operators as well. So basically everybody has their role here, and if you think about the CEO today and what he thinks when he goes to bed in the evening, is two things. It's basically digitalization and connectivity. I mean, there's a massive change in automation happening today in terms of efficiency gains that are required, and also new ways of operating, or new needs or new demands from their customers in terms of new ideas. And then obviously the safety of the employees is increasing a lot. So we typically address our customers first of all from the high level. So we start to, we try to initially get a buy-in from the senior management, because typically digitalization, automation, efficiencies are in their agenda. And once that's received, then it's kind of design, build, operate process that we try to solve the problems. But the key is the customer. At the end of the customer is in the center. So I don't know, Stephane, if you want to add to that or maybe challenge that view, but that's how we do it at Cellnex.
Yeah, please, Stephane.
Yeah, definitely, Mikko. So I mean, I think from our point of view, and we've seen that as I was mentioning for a long time. And you were making a really valid point, Malik, and it's great that this come up in the survey. There is a need for education around the topic. I think most of the industrial segments that we work with, they've dabbled with wireless, but by default is the trusted Ethernet cable. And I think very often it's a paradigm shift. It is a whole new way of thinking about things. Going from a cable and effectively trying to get the same reliability, the same performance that they used to, and then moving wireless. But I think at the end of the day, for me, it's not about technology. It's about what do they want to do. Very often we've got the industrial that comes to us with either a specific problem, or they've bought a new machine which struggles with the current technology. So it's really about defining and understanding what they want to do. And the cable will stay. Let's be clear. There'll be a lot of cables that's going to stay in the ground and continue to connect the machines that are fixed. But there's also a lot of potential that can be done when it comes to effectively digitalizing legacy machine, for example. That's really one of the first things, just connecting assets and getting real-time data out of this machine enable you to do so much more thing afterwards. And if you take a look at some of the data now out there and what we see when you walk into an industrial plant, up to 75 or 80% of things are not connected yet, and that is, some of the key value proposition. And then beyond that, you can build a lot more.
Right. Yeah, that's very good. And I think, as an infra supplier, I would say, you are central, to that transformation and enabling those private networks. And you have many channels, to reach out with industrial manufacturers, educate them and help them implement innovation you are bringing to the table. So as a telecom infrastructure suppliers, like Nokia has many channels, you can supply, equipment directly to industrial manufacturers. You can partner with system integrators, and you can also use incumbent or specialized network operators as your go-to markets there. So what channel do you think will be the most successful when addressing industrial manufacturing? I know this is a very not easy question to answer to, but it would be really good if you could give the audience a hint about what channels are most successful today and how you see that evolving looking forward.
Yeah, so from our side, we've taken the very pragmatic view that that there's effectively a need for a lot of knowledge when you go and address an industrial customers, and it comes with a combination of different partners. And I wanted to bounce back on what Grégoire was saying earlier. The ecosystem play is absolutely essential. When we deployed the initial networks in Rio Tinto in 2011, we had a wonderful networks, but nothing to connect to it, except for the initial, trucks that we could, that could carry a very large modem and things like this. So I think the aspect that, we've also seen beyond the sales channel, and I'm going to come back on the sales channel, but for a second, let's take a step back on the aspect of ecosystem, which is absolutely essential. There's actually no point putting a network when you don't have 4G or 5G connected things that can connect to these networks. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done with companies like, the Bosch or Siemens of this world, or people, in a various segment of industry. For example, take a Komatsu in the mining space, for effectively them to try the technology, test the technology, understand what it can do, and then effectively afterwards integrate those chipsets inside of their machine and be able to enhance the capability of those machines, able to do new things and new applications. So that's one of the aspects that Nokia realized very early on, that we needed a community of ecosystem players from the different industry we play in. And take the manufacturing space, for example, there are 17 sub-segments and each have their own ecosystem. So effectively, that's a lot of partners you need to work with. So that's on the ecosystem aspect. On the sales channel aspect, again, we try to be very pragmatic. In the very early days, there was very few CSP or very few SI that even knew what the word private wireless was. So we decided to address them early. But again, even if Nokia is a very big company, we can't address everybody, and we can't have the knowledge on every single segment. And we see some very specialized SI that are effectively the best channel to market, for example. And those SI can also be very specific to certain countries or even certain region in some country, yet they are the most trusted. So for us, we see an approach of working together with the CSP, that again have a lot to bring to the table when it comes to spectrum, their existing network they can use, and can offer roaming, and can offer the public network on top of their private wireless network. We see the system integrator being very trusted in this market. And very often, Malik, the reality is it's a tripartite deal or quadripartite deal where you've got 3 or 4 people coming together to deliver a complete project. So it's not a one-size-fits-all, but very often you need the expertise of 3 or 4 partners for a single deal.
I fully agree with you, Stephane. Partnership for a solution co-creation is important. Ecosystem play is equally important, and which leads me now to my next question. Which and probably not to Grégoire and Mikko. You have recently joined forces, to build the first private 5G network lab dedicated to industrial manufacturing transformation. So could you please educate the audience about what you are trying to achieve with this initiative and who are the key partners in the supply chain and what are the early hanging fruits you are harvesting out of this partnership or coalition, if I may say? Starting with Grégoire, probably.
Yes, I totally agree with you, Stephane, about how we can build an ecosystem. It's actually what we want to do here at NGA Technology. We build a new division, just Tech Lab 4.0, just to give everybody a place, partner, providers, and clients to come together with needs from the clients, with solutions from the partner, just to test and to build a use case and to educate on how it's gonna work and how we can be able to work on it. And we realized about education maybe 1 year ago, most of it with our pharmaceutical clients, that there was a real need in evolutions. They really need to be modular, to be able to change things very easily in the production. And connectivity is a key thing to be able to go for that. That's why we create this tech lab, and that's thanks to Cellnex and Edzcom. We have the 5G private network, and the term which is very important, it's a collaborative network. It's an open place. It's not a network only for us. It's a network which will be able to be used by providers, by clients, by us to build an entire and inspire an entire ecosystem about that. That's the real subject. It's to go with everybody who wants to go with us. And we have actually quite a good partner with Cellnex, but we are working also with Siemens, with Daeuble, with Sanofi, for example, to be able to prepare for the new challenges and the future of industry.
Right. So, and is there any, let's say, outstanding thing you have? I know that you have just, launched, that initiative. Any outstanding, achievement you have achieved far?
It's quite hard to say. We start in July, so our partnership with Cellnex, right. It's quite new. But the things we can see actually is our clients, 1 year ago, was saying us that they don't care about 5G, they don't care about new connectivity, everything is okay for them. And since we signed this partnership, everybody are saying to us, okay, I'm not close, just let's see what you're gonna do at this place, and we're gonna talk about that later. So show us it's working, show us how it works, show us how you can be able to do something good, and we will talk about that later. And just signing this partnership, beginning the education, and we're gonna go with something. And big client as well. It's quite amazing on how much just telling them we have a private 5G network, you're gonna test it, and providers and clients are coming to us. Okay, I'm gonna look at what you're doing here. That's the first things we can see in 4 months.
That's very interesting, and probably under that hat of this partnership, 5G private network lab, I will ask Mikko on in terms of bringing the most valuable features of 5G technologies to private networks. From your perspective, is 5G important to that value proposition of industrial manufacturers? And if yes, what are the most valuable features of 5G industrial manufacturers are dying to deploy today and probably planning to deploy in the future?
Yes. So I guess typically, we get compared with these private network solutions and 5G or 4G, let's say 5G. Typically, we get compared with what Wi-Fi can deliver and maybe what the kind of best effort operator connectivity can deliver. And it's very simple. I mean, when you need an operational solution that works all the time, that can connect tens or hundreds or thousands of active devices in a way, connections, you need a low latency for example, in a factory environment where you have mobile robots, for example. I mean, ultimately there is no other option than 5G to do this. I mean, Wi-Fi is great for many things. Operator connectivity can be useful in some things as well. I mean, the best effort one. But if you want to really have fully automated factory floor environment, today there's no other technology available than 5G, and it's just the experience we have with our customers.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, industrial manufacturers we're talking to recognize that. But here is the issue, all those good features, that provide, that could solve the pain points you're talking about and differentiate from Wi-Fi are not ready yet for deployment as we speak today, and those are coming release 16 and release 17 and beyond. And adding to that, there is a kind of complexity of implementing, these technologies. And I will ask Stephane here, there are many implementation options. As you know, Stephane, of deploying private networks is either a full ownership of private works by the manufacturers, or then based on shares run but full control, of the control plane and the core network, going to delegating the entire network to public cloud in a private or on non-public network. So you can see that there are different options, a manufacturer could opt for, but they are struggling, to understand which one will provide the most benefit to them, and that will allow them, to migrate swiftly, as 5G matures, from where we are today, 4.9G, which is non-standalone 5G, to a fully mature 5G that could enable them, to bring mission critical, time sensitive, and even distributed intelligence into manufacturing floor. So how do you handle, that confusion coming from the industrial manufacturers, Stephane?
Yeah, very good question. Actually, quite a few things there to cover. But let me really start with the topic on Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi 6, because I think that's that's important to understand. We know Wi-Fi. We are also a Wi-Fi vendor, so we understand extremely well what Wi-Fi is capable of doing, where it's coming from, and we think Wi-Fi is a great technology when it comes to IT. So when you're operating within an office building, when it's mostly around day-to-day business applications such as connecting to to WebEx or Teams, or getting connection to your Office 365, that's perfect. That's the right technology for the right price point. But that's what it was designed for. And one of the big misunderstanding that we see out there is the belief that Wi-Fi 6, which by the way improved on Wi-Fi 5 quite a lot in a few areas, is fit for the mission critical connectivity than the industrial OT side expects. And this is really where we've got to struggle, and we've done a lot of testing recently as part of a collaboration with a Danish university, where we were able to access a manufacturing site for 6 months, because that's the time it takes to test up to 5.9 or 6.9, so really check the reliability of technology. And what we saw is clearly in that same environment, Wi-Fi 6 continued to struggle very much like it was with Wi-Fi 5. Clearly it's a bit better, but the mobility hasn't been fixed, security is still an issue, the latency is still fluctuating and going up to 100 milliseconds once you have more than 20 things connected at the same time. So really, from our point of view, except for maybe the data rate, what we see is Wi-Fi 6 is effectively catching to LTE or what we call 4.9G, but it's nowhere near touching what 5G will be able to bring with the future release 16, 17, and what's coming later in 18 and 19. So we need to put things into perspective. Wi-Fi 6 for IT, 4.9G LTE is for OT, and then 5G will enhance things. And we've been at it for, as I mentioned, a long time. We've got over 340 customers now for private wireless networks. And today, we've had maybe one or two things we're not able to do with 4.9G and LTE. Because the one thing that people very often forget is before 3GPP designed 5G, there was release 13, 14, and 15 that brought a lot of innovation on LTE, and that's why Nokia, we call it 4.9G, because a lot of mission critical capability came into the 4G standard already. And today, based on the research done by Bell Labs, for example, we are confident that 4.9G LTE based private wireless networks can handle 85 to 90% of the requirements. And obviously, because it's a 3GPP technology, it can easily be upgraded to 5G, and then you get access to all the cool stuff that will come later on, ultra reliable, low latency, TSN, or time, synchronization effectively. All of these goodies will come later with 5G and can be an easy upgrade. So that's the topic of technology. Now, when it comes to the model that we, in terms of the solution and the architecture, indeed, there's quite a few things. And depending on what you want to do, they all have a play. What we've seen in the early days of private wireless is most of the very critical environments. Take a mining space, for example, or an iron foundry, where you're effectively dealing with workers' life. These are effectively being the markets where they tend to prefer their own solution deployed on site, and they can effectively tweak, customize, and adjust perfectly. And they want to have the full control of the system because, again, there's insurance liability that comes with people and workers' life. And then we saw in other markets, which are more the, let's say, I would call the business critical type of segments. And I think quite a few of the discrete industry falls more into that thing where they like the concept and they want the benefit of private wireless without the complexity. And in that sense, they tend to prefer those private wireless as a service solution. In the case of Nokia, it's called a digital automation cloud, where effectively you get the benefit of the solution without the complexity. It uses an edge cloud deployed on site, connected to a cloud, and then you have a third party, either a company like Nokia, could be a CSP, could be Cellnex, effectively managing the network and effectively keeping the complexity out of the solution. And then the final element is an element that's a model that's more looked at by the operator. And then the operator effectively leverage a maximum of what they have in their solution. And for example, they can do slicing of their core network to effectively keep the cost low for their solution and also enable other services as well. And like you said, you deploy a few radio on site, you deploy an edge cloud to ensure that data stay local because data confidentiality is essential in those markets. And then the core is effectively using a sliced core network. One thing for sure though, with private wireless, you need the radio to be deployed on site to guarantee the deep coverage that you need inside of those machines that you're trying to digitalize. You're not going to be able to connect from a macro base station that's outside the factory. And most of the deployments also, tend to be in a rural area. So many solutions.
So you exclude for now, the option of network slicing, mobile or incumbent operators are, bragging about. So you think, that solution is not ready for the marketplace yet.
But Malik, let me sorry, Stephane, let me just jump in here. Malik, I think it's not a solution for these kind of use cases. I mean, you need to build the radio coverage in-house. I mean, it has to be tailor-made, designed for the need. And therefore, I personally believe, and I think we in Cellnex believe that network slicing will never be a solution for at least all of these cases. Maybe it will be for some cases like large open area that need to be covered. It can be covered by macros or some micros, but the custom work, the design, the work you need to do with customer to deploy a really high quality, high performance private network requires, I think, like Stephane was saying, radios on site, etc. So that's that's why I think slicing is kind of irrelevant for our discussion.
Right.
Yeah, and I think Malik,
on
the slicing aspect, I think you need to also consider there are industrial sites where private wireless is the best fit. And then you've got also wide area network or field area networks that also need coverage out and about. Again, if you're a train company, if you're a utility company, you'll need that wide area coverage. And then clearly the operator slicing the public networks clearly have a play there. But again, it's a different play than, a nuclear power station, for example, which is an industrial site with extremely high requirements. So this is more where it fits. Again, doesn't mean you can't do everything with a public network. You can indeed do that. But again, you need to think about the private wireless network like LAN, the industrial or the enterprise. Right. Consider that as the industrial LAN. They will not get an industrial LAN from a third party that's outside of the XR. It's their lifeblood. It's essential for the operation.
So what about, organizations, who have, use cases where they can use, public networks with high level of accuracy, but they are also in a need on a fully fledged private network like LAN, as you said, for their manufacturing floor operations. Are they doing, to deploy dual infrastructure for that? How they are going to manage it, and who is going to help them, implement, this? So those are my questions, because the idea of, bringing, connectivity, as far as I understand, is to provide a single solution that could address all cases, not, shipping for one solution to address specific use case and another solution to address, other use cases. But I could be wrong in my understanding, but that's what the feedback I'm receiving, from manufacturers. I don't know if you have any comments on that.
Well, I guess from our point of view, having deployed those, there can be cases where kind of a single neck to choke is the right answer. Right. You could have a kind of a provider that could provide it all. In other cases, you might have, let's say, needs that can be satisfied by Wi-Fi, needs that can be satisfied by 4 or 5G network, or needs that can be satisfied by fiber, a fixed network. So ultimately, what we've seen in the industrial environments is the CIO office typically, or Chief Digital Officer office typically, is behind the strategy, what to deploy, from whom, and how. Yeah. And then obviously working with operations based on their needs. And I would say there's probably multiple options for customers. System integrators, like you rightfully pointed out in your study, could be Nokia in some cases, or infrastructure provider like Cellnex. Obviously, we tend to think us as Cellnex, the best suited for that job, and therefore we like to do more of those kind of deals.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. So I think
on that topic, one quick note. I mean, when you go on holiday, you take your phone with you. You travel from wherever you are to another country. There's something wonderful that's called roaming. And guess what? In private wireless, they're 3GPP technology. So effectively, you can have the same roaming between a private wireless network and a public network that you have when you just cross the border and switch on your phone, and hops, you are connected to somebody else. These are the same technology are possible when you need also roaming, when you got a combination, for example, a logistician, for example, that needs dedicated connectivity for his drone in his warehouse, for his AGV in his warehouse, but then for the trucks, we're out about. And again, this is a good area for the CSP to play in.
Yeah, no, thank you, Stephane. So I tried, in my questions, by the way, to encapsulate, some questions coming from the audience. So the questions I asked, they are coming from me. And so I think, we have just 3 minutes, before the end of that session. And I would like, to ask you, and in few words, and based on your respective expertise dealing with private networks and the industrial manufacturing sector, could you share any recommendations with industrial manufacturers who are about to start their digital transformation journey, what private wireless networks can do for them? Starting with you, Grégoire, and then Mikko, then Stephane.
Thank you, Malik, for your question. It's a very good question. I think the first thing I'm gonna say is come at our place, and we're gonna do it together. It's our role today to say, okay, you have a problem, you have a question, let's work on it together, and we have a place to work on it. So come contact us and come play with us to test new things to be efficient.
Thank you. Mikko?
Yeah, I guess ultimately the decision makers should accelerate the decision making by starting with those highest value or most pertinent use cases they have.
Mm-hmm.
Is this sort of pragmatic step-by-step approach, I think, that will lead to the lowest cost and highest value implementation that we've seen. I also very much echo Grégoire's comment about kind of co-developing or cooperating with the industry. So let's say whether it's vendors or partners like Nokia or in our case, we work with MG Technologies and their partners who could be, leading vendors for the industrial environment. And then last piece, I guess, is to move. Is to make a decision and start testing. There will be some that will be left behind, and there are others that will be leading. And I think from our point of view, connectivity and digitalization are the trends that are driving a lot of the industrial environments, and we can provide the connectivity through the existing technologies. So I think it's worthwhile testing and getting started.
Stephane?
Yes, Malik. So I just had a quick check. We've deployed private wireless in over 60 manufacturers around the world now. And resonating on the survey you showed earlier, there was also something we asked as part of the survey that we didn't see, which is what are the key use cases the manufacturer think about when they think private wireless? Where does it solve the biggest problem? And the number one thing is connecting all assets is the number one thing. You effectively heard about the term digital twin, effectively getting a real-time situational overview of the whole factory. And that is the critical thing. And even for Nokia, when it comes to our own factory that we've got in Oulu manufacturing base station, that was one of the ways where we kept things running when it was COVID and we only had 20% of the people working on the site. That digital connection meant you could effectively work and continue operating with a skeleton crew in your factory, yet continue to produce. So just by connecting things, you get that data, you get real-time information, you can then run analytics. And I remember a discussion once with somebody from one of those machine manufacturers, and they were telling us for them private wireless, the only business case you need to do is predictive maintenance. Just that, it's enough to effectively justify the investment in private wireless, because by connecting things, getting data, you can do predictive maintenance. And that's a big issue when a factory stops. So anyway, that's the first use case: connect things, build situational awareness, start running analytics to do things like predictive maintenance. Secondly, is try to improve your efficiency within your factory by putting in place AGVs and AMR, those robots that moves around. Those struggle a lot with Wi-Fi because there's no mobility. With private wireless, those works flawlessly and helps increase the flow within the factory significantly. In our case, again in Oulu factory, that helped around 35% efficiency improvement just thanks to those well-running AGV. And then finally, don't forget, you've got people working in factory, and enhance their capability, bring them the data, on a smartwatch, on a tablet, on a goggle, bring them the information they need. There's a lack of people working in the manufacturing space. There's a lack of skill. Very few people want to work in manufacturing. Again, using AR, using VR, you can train your people, you can enhance their capability, you can give them connected tools that know exactly the size of the screw you're going to put in, what torque, etc., the speed. You'll get the data log that comes out to improve your quality. So just those three things makes a lot of difference to manufacturer. And these are something that are running today in many factories around the world.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much, all of you, and really did learn a lot, about wireless private networks. But my key takeaways is from your discussion is, partnership matters, co-creation matters as far as supply chain is concerned. When it comes to manufacturers, don't be afraid of technology. Just go. Look at your pain points, the most pressing ones, as you mentioned, downtime and predictive maintenance. Manufacturers are losing billions, of dollars, from those issues. Just go and address, those those pain points, with the technology and upgrade, as you grow. So technology is here. you know, to service you, not, you know, to create barriers for you. So with this, thank you very much to Cellnex and Nokia for organizing, and for the and to all analysts, you know, for their pertinent, you know, answers, you know, to my questions. Have a lovely day, and if you have any further questions, don't hesitate to post them, you know, to the organizer. The speakers and myself will be very happy, you know, to take, you know, those questions. Thank you very much, and have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Thank you.